This is the Two Pink Tits podcast. Two tits, no limits, one mission.
Hello, Queens. I'm Coach Darling, your go-to pink queen for prosperity, passion, and perky perspective. And I'm here with my better half in sass, strategy, and my twin boob, the one and only, a little coach with a whole lot of fire, Amy.
Together, we're your double trouble duo behind the Two Pink Tits. The podcast that gives you the lift on all things real, raw, and ridiculously relatable. We've been in a relationship for 3 years, and by the end of 2024, we officially joined forces in business and badassery to bring this bold, boob-powered podcast to life. Each episode, a full cup or two of juicy convo from prosperity, purpose, and personal growth to the unfiltered, saggy, and sometimes unclassed moments of being human.
We're not here to preach, teach, or pop out perfection. We're here to share the lived in, laughed through, cried about, sometimes what the fuck parts of our journey, boobs, brains, and all. So if you're into honest chats, hot takes, deep dives, and maybe just the occasional nipple slip of wisdom, you're in the right place.
Two coaches, two perspectives, two unapologetic pink tits, keeping it real, raw, and a little risque. Bravo, babe.
Shall we dive in? Welcome back, Queens, to the Two Pink Tits podcast, the boob job that you actually need, rewiring your worth and letting the universe lift you up. Today we'll be having unfiltered conversations on everything life, manifesting, and law of attraction. I'm Coach Darling, and I'm joined by my ever sensational little coach. And today's episode is going to blow the glitter off your bra and limiting beliefs because we're diving into the juicy trifecta. Boobs, blocks, and bank accounts, Queens. That's a bra strap snap from the universe.
Now, before you clutch those busty girls, this episode is everything with just the right amount of money and tits. Both flow better when you're fully relaxed and supported.
Yes, ma'am. Queens, this is the unblocking La Perla secrets and using your hooters to connect to the universe. We're going to bust free from the hidden mental blocks that keep us from our most abundant and empowered selves.
And who better to guide us through this delicious, energetic nipple twist of transformation than the one and only Sandy Forster. And I'm going to take a deep breath for this long list of achievements and titles. She's a multimillionaire, manifesting queen, law of attraction goddess, host of the Wildly Wealthy Woman podcast, award-winning international best-selling author of her book, How to Be Wildly Wealthy Fast, money mentor to over 55,000 women all over the planet, multiple business award-winning coach, and the founder and head trainer of the Inspired Spirit Coaching Academy. Whew, that was a list, Sandy.
Indeed it was. And she went from welfare to millionaire, from broke to divine money manifesting, from struggling to business bliss, and today she's showing us her spiritual hooters and how to break through those blocks, attract abundance, and experience time and money freedom to do the things that make your heart truly sing.
Now, Sandy Forster, a warm welcome to the Two Pink Tits podcast today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Brilliant. So today is such a full circle moment for me, and I couldn't be more excited to welcome you into our space. Someone who has completely changed the trajectory of my own personal life and business. Now, here's the thing. I didn't just stumble across your brilliance. I was personally trained by the powerhouse that is you through the Inspired Spirit Coaching Academy. When I first joined the academy, I was in the midst of healing, physically, emotionally, and financially. I had survived a medical crisis that left me feeling disconnected from my body, depleted from my teaching career, and unsure of how to move forward. What I found inside the ISCA wasn't just a certification, it was a true transformation. Through your teaching, Sandy, I learned how to reconnect with my worth, trust my intuition, raise my own vibration, and shift my mindset from survival to anything is possible. I went from scarcity and self-doubt to stepping into a coaching business that is deeply aligned with who I am today. One rooted in freedom, joy, and purpose. And that's why this episode is such a treat, because we're diving into a juicy, expansive topic we're calling boobs, blocks, and bank accounts. Unlocking the secrets of the beautiful universe. It's where personal power meets prosperity and where we get real about how to clear the energetic blocks that keep women playing small in life, in prosperity, in mindset, and in their bank accounts.
And let's not forget cup sizes.
Sandy, I am so honored to have you here. Please, please share with us and the listeners your booby bio, your origin story of how you went from welfare to millionaire.
I would absolutely love to. But before I dive in, I just want to say I love, love, love hearing stories like yours of someone that's completely transformed their life through, and I don't always feel like it's me that made or was the catalyst for your transformation. You have to be ready. You have to be open.
Absolutely.
And everything that you learn, you have to then apply it. And that's exactly what you did. So I'm so excited to hear how your life transformed. And honestly, that's what I feel like I've been put on the planet to do.
Yes.
However, it certainly was not always like that. So
Yes.
I remember back in the day, I ended up marrying my high school sweetheart. And we'd gone out for something like, 12 years or something. We ended up getting married. I had 2 kids. I had a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and we split up. And at that time, I had it was like a hobby business. I was designing and sewing swimwear. And
so cool.
Gym wear, and it was all the rage. Everyone was getting into exercising, and so it was great pocket money when I was married. It was great fun money. We went on a holiday, we landscaped the garden, we bought furniture, we did all the fun stuff. But then when we divorced, that money had to be my sole income. And it was not enough to live on. It was enough to pay the electricity, pay for petrol in the car. It was enough to kind of buy food, but that was about it. So I ended up, little by little, that hobby business got me further and further in debt, and I ended up $100,000 in debt and on welfare.
Ouch.
And that was, not a fun place.
Not a fun place to be.
It was so stressful. Like, I just remember being what I call such a crummy mummy. I had no patience. I always seemed to be yelling at my kids. Let me tell you one story. This is really tragic.
We love this.
We love the tidbits.
The tidbits.
Oh, okay, so I've never shared this one. So I used to, at one point, I came across this course about personal development, and I remember you had to speak to people on the phone. So I remember speaking to someone on the phone, and then my kids running through the house, chasing each other, screaming at the top of their voices. And I'm trying to get them to calm down without saying anything because I'm on the phone. I'm standing in the kitchen on the phone. And so I just picked up the nearest thing and threw it onto the ground, trying to get their attention to stop because I was on the phone. It was a knife. The knife didn't hit the ground. It hit my daughter in her wrist. She starts screaming and holding her arm up, and she's got a knife sticking out of her wrist and blood is flowing out. Oh my God.
How did you even stay on that call?
I didn't. That was the end of it. I was just like freaked out. I had to go take her to the doctor. They had to get her stitched up. They asked me all these questions because they thought it might have been some sort of child abuse. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I used to be so stressed. It was really not a fun time in my life. I feel that I'm very lucky though, that even though I was stressed beyond belief because I was $100,000 in debt and I was receiving welfare from the government just to survive, which was something tragic like $15,000 a year, which is just not enough to survive on. But I feel like even though I was in that really bad place, I'm kind of a little bit delusional, which I think has really, really, really helped me
Yes.
with my manifesting. So even though things were really bad, I wasn't the sort of person to get depressed. Yes, I would get sad. Yes, I would cry about the situation, but I would just kind of, okay, got to get on with it. A bit like what's her name, Vivian Lee in Gone with the Wind.
Yes.
You know, when she just says, you know, I'll think about that another day. That was me. That was me. I'll think of, $100,000 in debt and on welfare. I'll think about that another
day. Yeah.
And so I just, I was really lucky. As I said, I did discover this course, and it was based on the law of attraction. And it was my first introduction into the power that we actually have. Because at the time I was, as I said, so stressed. I had no money. I wasn't making enough money in my hobby business anymore. I was not bringing enough in from the government, sort of subsidising that. I was just so stressed, so scared, so angry, so frustrated. So I just felt embarrassed and ashamed about my situation. I thought the rest of the world had their act together when it came to money, and I was just the odd one out who just didn't get it. I was just, a disaster. So, as I said, I discovered the law of attraction, and suddenly I realised I had the power to change things. So it was more than just positive thinking, which I had kind of read a few books and I understood about trying to think positively, but understanding that the law of attraction is real and that we are made of energy and our thoughts are energy, and when we focus and think about something and layer it with emotion, there is an energy that's created that goes out into the universe, into the quantum field, and we then attract back to us that same energy, things that align with that. So
100%.
I was beside myself with excitement about that, because previously, when you're $100,000 in debt and on welfare, that's really all you think about.
Yes.
Like when a bill comes in, you stress. When you go to the post office, you stress. When you go to the letterbox, you stress. Whenever a phone rings, you stress, because you always think it's someone chasing you for money, and it's very, very stressful. But suddenly I realised and learnt that what you focus on is what you create. So suddenly it was like, oh, okay, what do I want? And so I got really clear on what I wanted. I wanted to be a millionaire. I realised that I had been born into the wrong life. I wanted to be a millionaire. I wanted to be able to have choices. I wanted to be able to do the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to do them. I've never been much of a clothes and jewellery and, fancy stuff type person. I'm very, very casual. I live on the beautiful Sunshine Coast in Queensland, Australia, and I'm the most casual person you'll meet. But I'm very much into travel and doing things that make me feel good, like meditation and going to crystal ball sessions and breath work and, going to really beautiful places around the world and just exploring, and not being able to do that, being in that place where I couldn't even afford to buy my children a packet of chips or crisps when we were down the street. Like, we were so broke. So suddenly being able to focus on what I really wanted and getting really clear on that was such a relief. Like, it was the most blissful feeling. So imagine being $100,000 in debt and on welfare and thinking about that every day, and suddenly, instead, you're focusing on travelling the world and having a new car that didn't leak every time it rained. In fact, leaked so much that a plant...
That's our favourite story. That's our favourite story. We were dying to see a picture of the plant growing in your car.
It just grew so fast. It must have been some sort of weed. It just popped up really fast. It was nearly as high as a roof.
Well, at least there was still growth. That was a sign that there was still growth somewhere in your life at that time.
Exactly. So, I just had so much fun being in that place where I could constantly, can you hear that noise?
We love the natural Australian jungle
Yes.
coming through.
and all your experiences.
Honestly, if you'd been an hour early, you would have heard all the birds, the sunset, like in a north.
I will add
Someone
it
said
in.
to me, "Have you got an aviary?" I said, "No, it's just the birds in the bush."
We'll add it all in. It's part of the experience.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Exactly.
I love it.
So like I was saying, so I was like so excited that I could instead focus on what I wanted. And so I really went to town. I imagined traveling the world and having a new car and having a house that I actually owned and being able to go to events around the world and buy whatever courses I wanted and going to retreats and just like all the fun stuff. So
That's amazing.
spending that time focusing on what I wanted just made my heart sing. It just made me so excited. And I realized that all those years that I've been focusing on what I didn't want, I just was creating more of it. And when I started to focus on what I did want, things started to turn around. And, it seems a lot of people, when I tell them the story, it sounds like some overnight success. But honestly, I really dived into everything I now teach. Like I didn't dabble. I didn't do an affirmation one day and a short little visualization the next day and maybe a few days later do a meditation. I was doing something every day and I was making sure that I was constantly thinking about and focusing on what I truly wanted my life to be like, because I knew that if I could do that, then because I still had a few doubts, if the law of attraction actually worked, then things would start to change, and they did. And basically what happened, I ended up going from welfare to millionaire, and honestly, the transformation in my life, and I guess the weight that it lifts off your shoulders, and the patience it then put in my heart.
That's key, the patience in your heart.
Money really impacts you as a person. And I don't care what anyone says, about having money or not having money. Having money is way better. Way better than not having it. So, I just feel really blessed, and I love the fact that I now get to work with people all around the world and help them transform their money mindset, not just through law of attraction, but through neuroscience, which I've really dived into in a huge way in the last 10 years or so. And I just feel that the entire world is at that place now where they really are open to understanding there is more to life than what we see. There is more to life than just what the physical senses can pick up. There is something going on behind the scenes, but we get to, I guess you could say, manipulate that or control that in a way if we choose, through our thoughts, through our feelings, through our emotions and through our actions. And when we take control of that, then we begin to take control of our life and create it in the way that we truly want it to be.
And I love that, Sandy. And the thing is, especially from your book, I mean, when I first read your book, it opened up my mind to so many things, especially the part where you say, celebrate those small wins. It's the daily flow that gives you proof more is always on the way, and that's anything is possible. And it really did just open up that expansive, freedom-based those feelings for me.
Exactly, because I think, when you look at everything in the world, whether it's this year, last year, 10 years ago, and probably, 10 years in the future, we are trained to look for what's going wrong. And that's not just through the media or through religion or through society as a whole. That's how we're wired. We are wired to look out for danger. Because back in caveman days, something that was different, whether it was a berry, whether it was someone from another tribe, whether it was an animal, it could potentially kill us. So we are hardwired to look out for what is different, which is good on a survival sense, although we really don't probably need that survival sense so much these days.
Correct.
But from what I like to call a manifesting or creating sense, it is total crap, and it totally sort of just fuses the wires in your brain when it comes to manifesting, because when you are in that place of constantly looking for what is wrong and listening to the news or doom scrolling on social media or just spending your time in conversations with people that love to complain, then what happens is you are actually wiring. So, put law of attraction aside if you don't want to believe it. But what you're doing in those moments, you're actually wiring your brain to look out for more of those things.
Yeah.
Because the more you focus on something, whether you're talking about it, thinking about it, writing about it, just sharing a comment with someone about it, the more you put your energy into something, and let's say it's negative, then your brain says, oh, this is really important to Sandy. She's talking about how she doesn't have enough money to pay that bill. She's talking about how she's too scared to answer the phone in case it's, a debt collection agency. She's really worried about where her next, money is going to come from for her to be able to pay her bills. So in those moments way back then, my brain was saying, these are very, very important things to Sandy, because she's not only thinking about it all the time, she is emotionally charging these thoughts. So that must mean it's really, really important. So we have to scan her existence every day, every minute, and find more things like that for her so that she basically experience that. So because that's what she's saying is important. So we're going to filter everything else out, and that's what she's going to see.
Yeah.
Because the subconscious doesn't know that, no, I'm thinking about things because I don't want to experience it. I don't want to see it. Your brain doesn't know that. So the reticular activating system, which is a whole, another thing.
It's a whole nother podcast.
But it's basically filtering out all the good stuff and only showing me all that bad stuff that keeps creating more of having no money.
Exactly.
So by understanding that what you think about, focus on, talk about, read about, listen to podcasts about, what you focus on consistently, you are then training your brain to say, this is what is important to say.
Yes.
So I began, as I said, to focus on all the things I wanted. So my brain would then say, this is what is important to Sandy, filter out everything else, and only let into her experience things that are going to make her successful, have more money, be happier, be more patient, be able to buy her $1 million home, be able to travel the world, be able to get a brand new car. Like, those are the things that she's putting her energy and focus and conversations and everything around. That's what's important. And it's that simple. We basically train our brain every minute of every second of every day, of every week, of every month. We're training our brain to filter out what is not important and filter in what is. Not based on what's good or what's bad, but based on what we focus on with emotion and feeling. If we focus on something with emotion and feeling, the brain says, we need to see more of that. That's the bottom line. That's honestly how simple it is. And when you understand that, you then can decide to start to shift your focus, shift your thinking to what it is you do want, and then you'll start to see your entire world and experiences within your world will begin to shift. They will begin to change as well.
Jeez. And Sandy, I love that you just highlighted such an important thing when you were talking about diving into your own tools every day with this reticular activating system we were talking about, The fact that you, in order to actually tangibly change your reality, you have to do it every day. This is not just something you can show up once a week and be like, okay, I might do a meditation and, feel a little bit. This is about repetitive showing up every day, doing it over and over and over again to rewire your subconscious mind, right?
Exactly, because, if someone wanted to lose weight, they wouldn't expect to eat, one good snack a day and the rest of the day eat total crap. They wouldn't expect to get healthy. They wouldn't expect to lose weight. Why people think they're going to rewire their brain by reading a couple of quotes on Instagram and, spending a minute thinking about being a millionaire, it's like they're delusional. You need to put in the effort. And sometimes it can be as simple as, I remember for me, I wanted something that was going to be easy. So I bought myself it's like one of those clear plastic sleeves inside a folder that you get from like an office type store. Here in Australia, we've got Office Works.
Yes.
So I've got these clear plastic sleeves, and in every one I put something. So in one of them I put a series of affirmations. In another sleeve I put a picture of me surrounded by money. In another one I put some pictures of a beautiful house and maybe a car. In another one I put a money declaration. In another one I wrote out a short visualization. So all these different things. And because I work from home, and I still do, I love it, I put that little folder on my kitchen table, and I used to work from the dining room, and because I had my computer set up on the dining table, and then whenever I did anything in my house, whether it was going to get a glass of water, getting something from the fridge, hanging out the washing, going to the bathroom, I had to walk past the kitchen table. So I had a little round kitchen table.
Yeah.
So I would walk past that round kitchen table, and whatever was on the first page, I would do it. It literally took me, less than a minute. And then I would go off, maybe hang out the washing, walk back past the kitchen table, flip the page, do the next little process, go and do some work, get up, get a drink of water, flick it to the next page, do that process. And for me, I found that really easy.
Nice.
Because I didn't have to put aside an hour in the morning to do all these processes. I could just make it part of my day. And what that did, consistently raised my vibration, consistently had me focusing on what I wanted, consistently kind of raised my energy and got me excited and full of anticipation of what the future was bringing me. And that's the key. It's that consistency. It's that being able to constantly being in that place where you are focusing on what you want. Because honestly, our default, as I said, our default is looking out for what's wrong. And so it's very easy to constantly be falling back to worrying about this, worrying about that, worrying about the other thing. There's just too many things to worry about these days.
Absolutely.
So it's like you need to have a little trigger. You need to have something that's going to be easy, but it's going to be fun, that's going to get you into that place where you can constantly just be kind of reminding yourself about focusing on what you want and reminding yourself that you are the magic and you have what it takes to create the most amazing life. And when you do that consistently, as I said before, things start to change. And honestly, when things first start to change, that is
the best.
Like the most exciting time, isn't it? Like you guys would have experienced it.
That's the breast believe it queens moment. It's happening for you right now. Absolutely. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you for those little spiritual hooters of joy. I mean, I think my boobs just clapped. I think they did. Let's just give a tingling round of applause. That is amazing. Sandy, you are phenomenal. And, thank you for all those little nipple wisdoms that you shared with us. I mean, I don't even think people realize they can do half of these things. So thank you.
Yeah, I think sometimes people think it's a lot harder than it is. When you start talking about neuroscience, they think, oh my gosh, rewiring the brain. It sounds like there's a lot involved, but honestly, it's just as simple as changing your focus.
Absolutely.
Choosing a different thought, choosing a different decision, taking a different action. That's simple, and your entire life can change.
And I love that because you said always make it fun. And that's when your vibration is super high and it actually does turn out to be fun. I'm having such a fun time starting out my business. I really am. There's hard times, but I'm definitely having a good laugh at silly mistakes and moving on, which is brilliant.
We do have a podcast talking about two pink tits. I mean, if you're not having fun. Right?
Okay, so Sandy, now we are going to fire a round of cosmic quickie questions at you. So obviously don't think too much about it. Just say the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay. So how about one money mantra or affirmation that changed your life?
Okay, I remember being at an Anthony Robbins event. I was going to say concert.
Kind of is a concert.
That could be interesting, yes.
Anthony Robbins event once, and I remember up on the big screen there were these words that said, the universe whispered and you were the answer.
Ooh.
And it was like, oh my gosh, that is like, it just felt so beautiful to think that we are not separate to anything. We are not this little speck in this life trying to make things work. We actually are part of something much bigger. And when we use our energy to tap into that thing that is much bigger than us, life becomes easier. So I love that. The universe whispered and you were the answer.
That is a titty truth bomb flying left, right, and center. Sandy's holding nothing back. Right.
So, Sandy, an old belief about wealth you now laugh at.
Oh my gosh, okay. So, for me, I used to think you had to be, to be able to actually make money, to be successful in any way, you had to be smart, you had to be organized, you had to be professional, like you had to be a real grown-up person. And you had to look like a real grown-up person. In fact, I was cleaning out my cupboards the other day and I came across a picture that I had. So about 20 years ago, I was in the US, I think I was in LA somewhere, and you could get your head superimposed on a body and it would be printed out like a magazine, so like you were on the front of a magazine. So I got it done. So my head, and I'm standing there, so the body is this woman with the biggest shoulder pads you've ever seen, with her arms crossed, really professional in this dark blue suit. And it's like, that's what I thought it took to be successful. Like, you have to be smart, organized, and professional, or it wouldn't work. And I look at that now and think, oh my gosh, I am the absolute opposite of that. I am like nothing like that. And I love the fact that I can just be me, and people who are drawn to my message, my energy, the way I teach, they're the perfect people for me. Just like every person out there who's starting a business or who's growing their business, thinking that they have to become someone else because they're watching someone on social media and thinking, oh, I'm not as good as them, I need to change something. Be you, and honestly, you will energetically attract the right people to you. You just got to be who you are.
Exactly. So we are not here to shrink ourselves, our cups, our dreams, or our standards. I love that. Just be who we are.
Absolutely. Okay, Sandy, how about the moment you knew you were a powerful manifester?
Yeah. So, okay. So there's actually two moments that I'd love to share quickly.
Please.
So one of them was I was at an event, and I had, as I said, I discovered this personal development course, and we went to this event, and it was like a training event, and they said to us, okay, you've got homework tonight. When you go back to your hotel room, you've got to write out your perfect day. You've got to write out all the things that you are doing now. Okay?
Yeah.
So to make your business success, write out what you do in the morning, what you do before lunch, what you do around lunchtime, afternoon, evening, blah, blah, blah. So I went back to my hotel room, and the weird thing was, about 3 or 4 months earlier, I had come across an exercise that said, write out your ideal day, and I'd written out my ideal day, and it was like, get up in the morning and do some yoga, or maybe go for a run along the beach, and then come back and get the kids to school, and then go to the gym, and then come home and read some personal development books or listen to some audios, and then share that information with other people. And I remember saying to someone at the time, if I was doing all the things on my ideal day, there would be no time to work. Like, how's that going to happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm doing this exercise at this training day, and I go back to my hotel room, write it all out, and it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm getting up in the morning, I'm
Amazing.
doing some yoga, or I'm going for a run along the beach, coming home, bring the kids to school. When I come back from bringing them to school, I then start talking to people about the personal development courses that I'm selling, which are based on the law of attraction. So I'm reading them myself, I'm listening to them myself, and then I'm sharing that information with others, and I am making money. I'm making more money in a month than I was in the entire year before. So it's like, in that moment, I realized, oh my gosh, like I'm sitting in my hotel room crying because I'm like, oh my gosh, I created this. Like I wrote this out and it's happened. So that was one time. And that was
amazing.
That was kind of the very first introduction to the fact that I could manifest my life the way I wanted. But I think the moment that I really understood that I had manifested money in a way that I'd always dreamed of was I love smoothies. And I used to always have fruit smoothies in the morning for breakfast. And my blender broke, and it was like, okay, I need to buy a new blender. So I went off to Target to get myself a blender, and I'm walking down the aisle of Target trying to find the right blender.
Yeah.
And it was around the time that I had come up with an idea for a program called Wildly Wealthy Women, and it had been quite successful. So I'm walking down the aisle of Target, and it was the first time in my life when I realized I did not have to look at the price. I could buy a blender based on what I wanted. And to me, that was such a pivotal moment in my manifesting journey because, as I said, my entire life up until that point, everything revolved around what something cost. Did I have enough money? Didn't I have enough money? Would I have to save up money? What would I have to sell to try and get the money to get the thing? Whereas I could just walk in there and buy any blender. And so here's me standing in the aisle of Target crying because I am able to buy any blender I wanted. So again, that was a beautiful moment and really made me realize that, you know, I was amazing at manifesting money and my money worries were over forever.
Oh, our titties are tingling from that frequency drop, Sandy. I love that story. Thank you for that.
Okay, Sandy, so the last one we're going to give you is, what does wealth feel like to you right now?
I think to me right now, it's the same as it's always felt. To me, wealth has never been about the money. It's about the choices and the freedom. To me, it's always about choices and freedom. My highest value is freedom. And so money to me, being wealthy to me, is about being able to choose what I do, when I do it, who I do it with, where I go, what I can have in my life. It really is about freedom and choices.
Exactly.
Always was, always will be.
I love that. And, you know, you didn't just lift yourself up, you double deed your destiny. And I love that.
Yes, we are so aligned, Sandy. We love that the universe has connected us. So excited. Okay, so that was a full body, full bosom, hell yes energy you just gave us. So thank you, Sandy. We love and appreciate you. And we believe that being a woman in business and entrepreneurship in today's world, you need both practical and the metaphysical to succeed. And as you say, Sandy, the practical plus the metaphysical equals pure magic. So we are here to encourage all women, no matter where you are in your journey, that you are born to be your best you possible. So why struggle with traditional methods when you can empower yourself with the tools of law of attraction and manifestation and shoot your desires through the stratosphere with a helping hand from the universe?
Exactly. Who needs underwire when you've got aligned desire? So, Sandy, one last question. Tell us how our beautiful listeners can work or connect with you.
Okay, so if they want to connect, probably the easiest way is listen to the Wildly Wealthy Women podcast, where I talk all things money, mindset, and manifesting. But I actually have a little freebie for your listeners.
Yay! Love that.
Wealthy bundle.
Little
some
jiggle.
affirmations, a guided visualization, just some things to help them to start to really align their body, mind, and spirit with abundance. And they can get that at my website at wildlywealthy.com/free.
Ooh, love that. We will put that link in down with our podcast in the comments section, and we'll post it on socials as well if anyone wants.
And thank you for that beautiful, abundant gift. I love it.
That is amazing.
So
pleasure.
and that's a wrap on the Boobs, Blocks and Bank Accounts episode. Sandy, you've brought the spiritual hooters, the bounce and the nipple caps.
Queens.
Until next time, little darlings, keep your tits high, your bras optional and your cups full of universal abundance.
Yes, and thank you, Sandy, again from my side for sharing this space with us, empowering our listeners with your universal tit wisdom and booby tricks and spiritual hoots.
Thank you so much, Sandy. That was brilliant. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and just your comments, and just I loved your stories. I mean, some of the things I haven't heard about, so I loved it. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank
Sandy.
you. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah.
Bye. So if you ever feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you, we're here to flick the straps because, babe, you were born to be bold, brilliant, and wildly prosperous.
So tune in to our next episode with your tits up, tits out, tits forward.
This is the Two Pink Tits podcast. Two tits, no limits, one mission.
Okay, legal stuff. We are not registered psychologists or psychiatrists. We do not prescribe medication, pills, or anything other than really good high vibe ideas.
Exactly. Love that. Couldn't have put it even better.
Exactly. We are just two coaches looking to make the world a better place for women and raise our vibration collectively.
Love it. Thank you, Coach Darling.
Thanks, Coach Amy.
Bye.